Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. So please stand and body your spirit as we sing our gathering hymn in your teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, number 1008. So welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough, where we constantly strive to be an open and welcoming congregation to all who seek community and support. We don't worship in one specific way each week. Sending love your way. Prefer to silently acknowledge your joys and sorrows remaining in your hearts. I invite you to come to the altar and release a stone into the vase in silence while Viva plays Spirit of Life. And after she plays that through one time, you're invited to all sing in this meditation song, and the words are printed in your order of service. We hold all these things within the heart of this community, both spoken and unspoken. And by remaining silent for a moment, let us consider what has been shared and how we might respond. And let us close together with Amen and blessed be. Amen. Blessed be. And now let's get an update from our RE folks. What's happening in RE?
We are playing freely again this Sunday.
Yay!
Hey, what's not to like about that, right? Playing freely.
Everyone that time.
Now let's sing our beloved children to their class with a children's blessing located in the back cover of your gray hymnal. May your eyes be open to learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace. So, for some brief bios. The Caroline Welty. So Caroline has been a member of UUCH and has been an active member of our worship team. And we're going to really miss you. And she's a rising first-year student at Princeton University and a former Cedar Ridge High School debate team captain. It must be interesting to say former. That's cool. And Jeff Welty is a member of UUCH and also has been very, very active. He's been our treasurer, keeping everything straight. And he's also a law professor at the UNC School of Government and a lifelong debate enthusiast. And now I leave this to you.
Well, good morning. My dad and I know that the typical sermon here at UUCH is calm and reflective, but today we're doing things a little bit differently. As Linda said just before, my dad and I are both debaters. My dad debated in high school and college and became a lawyer and has coached debate now for about 20 years. And I was lucky enough to be one of his students. He coached me and my partner in public forum debate for the past 4 years. And so we thought that it would be fun, especially in light of the recent discussion at the COW, to debate the former 7 principles versus the current 6 love-centered values. Our debate will begin. We'll each give a constructive speech, a pro and a con case, and then we will each give a rebuttal speech, so a response to the other person's case. But we'll conclude differently from the way most debates do. Instead of choosing a winner, we're going to find some common ground. So, it's time for a UU Smackdown.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here with you all. And I didn't say this during joys, sorrows, and milestones, but it is a great joy for me to be sharing this sermon with Caroline. We had so much fun preparing for it, and we hope that you'll enjoy it a bit and perhaps find some value. As most of you know, about 80% of the Unitarian Universalists at the 2024 General Assembly voted to amend Article 2 of the UUA's bylaws, essentially to replace the 7 principles with 6 love-centered values. But sometimes majorities are wrong. And as someone whose first act of commitment to Unitarian Universalism was memorizing the 7 principles, I'm here to tell you that Jet Pig or the Love Flower or whatever you want to call it is not a step forward. First of all, many of the 6 values are vague buzzwords. Transformation, interdependence, pluralism, those words have 2 things in common. First, lots of syllables, and second, nobody knows what they mean. I just finished reading a novel in which one of the characters has to attend a party and pretend to be an academic. And she does that by spouting a series of long words that mean nothing. And it's as if that same practice was used to generate the 6 love-centered values. We might as well say Unitarian Universalists believe in intersectional positivism rooted in a neo-antiquarian topology of difference. And Ari's going to do a craft project about that. By contrast, the 7 principles are basically written in regular English. They include things like dignity, justice, growth, and truth. Unitarian Universalism is a shrinking faith. We're down from a high of about 300,000 to about 150,000 today, and moving to a flower of prattle is not going to help. So to recap, my first point is that the 6 values, many of them are meaningless. And my second point is that others among the 6 values, and especially some of the interpretive language the UUA has developed, amount to a creed in disguise. Now, we're a covenant community, right? We don't all have to believe the same things. We support each other on spiritual journeys that might lead to different destinations. That's the defining feature of our faith. And the 7 principles were big on that. They include acceptance of one another, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and the right of conscience. They start from the premise that we're unique individuals and that we might see things very differently. But the 6 values represent a commitment to a specific worldview and really to a political orthodoxy. Equity is a good value, but these days it's a code word as well. justice seems promising, but the UUA's description of justice says that we're required to develop a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. And those words tell you which vision of justice is accepted here. And if you haven't gotten the picture yet, the UUA's official pamphlet of the 6 values, that's a real thing, is even clearer. It says, forces of racism, marginalization, and bigotry work in direct opposition to the pluralism, justice, and equity we preach about. So we work to offer a meaningful counterpoint to such systems of oppression. Now, many of us may believe that. I'm not here defending bigotry. But it used to be that UUs didn't have to take the same side on the hot button issues of the day. And now it seems that we do. One final observation is that the 6 values pick and choose a lot. Transformation is in, but forgiveness didn't make it. Pluralism is part of the 6 values, but freedom isn't in them. In fact, the General Assembly delegates in 2024 voted down a proposal to add peace to the list. Peace! For the record, it's in the 6th principle, which embraces the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Now, I know the folks who came up with the 6 values are good people, and the same with the folks who voted for them. But for me, the 7 principles capture the timeless heart of Unitarian Universalism, and the 6 values are a shiny new object that will ultimately be a flash in the pan. Here.
As a member of the youngest set of Unitarian Universalists, I invite you to look towards the future of our faith and recognize the 6 love-centered values as the next great step in the progression of Unitarian Universalism. First, Unitarian Universalism is a self-described living tradition, meaning that our values, beliefs, and practices are in constant evolution. We are encouraged to continuously reevaluate what we think and why we think it, individually, congregationally, and as an entire faith. Just last Sunday, our living faith was put into action when we sang the revised lyrics to Answering the Call of Love, which have been deemed more socially progressive and anti-ableist than the original lyrics. But the 7 principles were ultimately a dam of stagnation preventing the flow of Unitarian Universalism. It's important to remember that the 7 principles were adopted in 1985. Laptops hadn't been invented, and Back to the Future, a movie that's now considered a historical artifact, to me, had just been released. Some of you, including my father, might remember these as your teenage glory days, but 1985 is literally a time period we now study in world history. The point is, UUs pride themselves on being part of a dynamic and ever-changing faith, and it's imperative that we do not contradict our own call for change by restricting our most important guiding values to ones written more than 40 years ago. Regardless of your appreciation for the 7 principles, you must recognize that it was time for change to occur. Second, the 6 love-centered values are much broader than the 7 principles, leaving more room for personal and congregational interpretation. As Unitarian Universalist columnist Dr. Doug Mutter writes in his 2014 article in the UU World magazine, the 7 principles are too easy and describe a really wimpy religion. He observes that our 7 principles are littered with easily agreed to terms like search for truth and meaning and spiritual growth that ultimately demand very little of their adherents. And he's right. The 7 principles stipulate freedom and responsibility in our searches for truth and meaning, but instead work against their very own purpose by prescribing Unitarian Universalists with specific spiritual principles. As my own father said, he memorized the 7 principles when first attending Unitarian Universalist services. We shouldn't be encouraging UUs to memorize other people's statements of belief. We should be expecting them to create their own. Fortunately, the 6 love-centered values invite discussion within communities about congregational identity, problems, and causes, and the ways in which the members should work together to achieve their goals. Most importantly, the 6 love-centered values require that UUs take responsibility and are granted freedom in their own searches for truth and meaning, which can only strengthen our faith and better our members. The 7 principles aren't bad by definition, but they represent an outdated interpretation of Unitarian Universalism. Even more importantly, each of the 7 principles is better achieved by following the 6 love-centered values. The love-centered values will build the same loving communities that were built under the 7 principles, but they will also require some self-reflection, holding UUs accountable, and creating a faith not full of followers, but full of thinkers.
As a brief rebuttal, Caroline offered 2 thoughtful and rather sharply worded reasons in support of the 6 values, but neither is ultimately convincing. First, she noted that Unitarian Universalism is a living tradition and argued that the 6 values represent change. That's just another way of saying that the 6 values are different from the 7 principles. That's a precondition for having a debate. It's not an argument in favor of one side or the other. Change isn't inherently good or bad. Newer isn't inherently better or worse. And for the reasons I've already presented, I see this particular change, this particular new development, as bad. But if you think change is needed, you should remember that the 7 principles don't need to be completely static. In fact, they haven't been. The 7 principles were originally the 6 principles adopted in 1961 at the founding of Unitarian Universalism. In 1985, they tweaked the words of the original 6th, and they added a 7th to add respect for the web of all existence to the concept, and reworded some of the others. In 1987, further minor changes were made, and since then, there have been proposals to edit the existing principles or add an 8th. So sure, if change is needed, let's change. But let's not completely untether ourselves from concepts that have stood the test of time, that have been part of Unitarian Universalism since the beginning. Caroline's second argument was that the 6 values are broader than the 7 principles and leave more room for personal and congregational interpretation. Her words here seem to support my point that the 6 values are so vague and amorphous as to be meaningless. She referenced someone who asserted that the 7 principles are wimpy. I think wimpy's in the eye of the beholder. To me, saying that we're centered on love is as milquetoast as it gets. No one could object to that because it doesn't really mean anything. As a final point, you know that the 6 values passed with about 80% of the vote at the General Assembly. About 2,000 attendees voted for them with 499 opposed. Want to know how many General Assembly attendees voted against the 7 principles? 1. That's an inspiring statement that captures the imagination of virtually everyone in the faith. The 6 values would never have made it through our consensus process, but the 7 principles inspire almost all of us. As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
My father wishes to settle for accepting the past as adequate, but in a constantly changing world, we must recognize that my dad's advocacy for the 7 principles doesn't make him charmingly appreciative of tradition. It makes him a stick in the mud. Let's begin with his first observation, which is that 80% of UUs voted to adopt the 6 love-centered values. He plainly asserts that sometimes majorities are wrong, but one of the 7 principles he himself is advocating for recognizes the value of respecting the democratic process. If he loved the 7 principles as much as he said he does, he would accept the 6 love-centered values as their successor. Now let's move on to his first real point, which is that the 6 love-centered values are composed of vague buzzwords, but that the 7 principles are somehow much more clearly written. It's true that the 6 love-centered values each represent complex moral ideas, but the 7 principles have no shortage of long words either. At least the 6 love-centered values are only 6 words. The 7 principles contain 95. More importantly, though, is my previous observation that the 6 values' breadth is their strength. Some new UUs may have to look up pluralism in the dictionary, but that's not something to be discouraged. Religious and social curiosity both created our faith and sustain it to this day. My father's second main point is that the 6 love-centered values are creedal and politically motivated in some way. Quite obviously, the 6 love-centered values present no more of a creed than the 7 principles do, and per his own observation, are much broader in their presentation. If you want to discourage imposing belief systems on Unitarian Universalists, then the 6 love-centered values are the way to go. His other complaint about the 6 values is that they promote equity and justice. It's a bit sad that one of the only ways he can find to defend the 7 principles is through advocating for injustice, or for people's right to believe in it, at least. Not to mention that the 7 principles actually mention the word justice twice as much as the 6 love-centered values do. But ultimately, Unitarian Universalism has always been a justice-oriented faith, at once a liberal religious tradition and a champion of progressive social change. Unitarian Universalists helped found the NAACP and the ACLU. They were the first major church to perform same-sex marriage, and they've been activists in countless social movements, from women's suffrage to the economic justice movement to environmental activism. Unitarian Universalism is inextricably linked to our faith's support of equity and justice, and excluding these values from our 6 love-centered values would be much more controversial. It would impose more of a political orthodoxy than including them. His final point is that certain words don't make the cut. That's pretty obvious. Some things didn't make the cut to be one of the 7 principles. Just because something isn't included doesn't mean it isn't valued. Peace, for example, is best achieved through justice, equity, generosity, and love. My father feels like our faith is moving on without him, but it doesn't have to feel that way. By recognizing the excellence of the 6 love-centered values, we can improve ourselves, our faith, and our world.
Caroline, great job. I think maybe I taught you too well, and I hope that 20 or 30 years from now, I'm still around for the next Smackdown when you defend the 6 love-centered values against the 5 equity-based aspirations or whatever they come up with at General Assembly 2050.
We all hope so too.
Do you see any common ground here?
Definitely. For one thing, we both value some things that have always been a part of Unitarian Universalism. You like the 7 principles, and I like the commitment to introspection and evolution. But we're both traditionalists, in a way.
And we do both see some need for change. I don't want to be totally stuck in 1985 wearing parachute pants and playing video games on my Atari 2600.
Did you really wear parachute pants?
No. But I understand that fashion changes and the world around us changes and values change. So I'm up for learning a bit more about Jet Pig as long as I can keep the 7 principles in the back of my mind.
Of course, that's pluralism. We're diverse in theology. So you can hang on to a few old-fashioned ideas and still be welcome here.
Well, I might not have won the debate, but at least I didn't get excommunicated. You know, my favorite metaphor for Unitarian Universalism is many windows, one light, which historically has meant that all the major religions are kind of different lenses or different ways to see one universal truth. And perhaps we could say the same thing about the 7 principles and the 6 love-centered values. They're different windows onto the one light that Unitarian Universalism shines onto the world. So thanks for arguing with me, and thanks to all of you for listening.
Amen, and blessed be.
Well, that was really fun and very informative. Thank you very much, and timely as well. And now, on this Sunday, we will take up a monetary offering, which we usually do, which supports our social justice work in our Orange County communities. And this month, our plate offering goes to the Eno River Association. And please donate by placing cash or checks in the offering basket. If by check, write plate in the memo line, or you can go to our website and click the donate button. Or you could use the QR code printed in your order of service. And thank you for your generosity.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light
in the
darkness. There is always a light
in the
we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night,
and be
to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always
There is always a light.
There is always love.
We are ready to see it.
There is always
There
love.
is always a light.
There is always
We
love.
are ready to be it.
To see the light, to be the light, to shine. We will. There is always love. There is always love. There is always love. There is always love. To see the light, to be the light, to shine. Climb this hill. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. Be the light.
You can stay up. We're going to leave the closing here.
Oh, yeah.
You want to scoot over? No, thank you, Viva and the Songbirds, for all the great music. It sounds like we're going to get more. Yay. So for the love that surrounds us every morning, and for the friends beside us, and the generous gifts just received, let us be truly grateful. Let us rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, Building Bridges. And that's number 1023 in your teal hymnal.
So we're going to do this as a round. We'll sing it together twice, and then we'll split into two groups. Let's see, maybe you four can go over to that side.
So you can lead this half, and we'll start, and then you guys. Yeah. Because you're going to lead this half. Okay, so we'll have this half and this half. Twice say this. Building bridges
Between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I'm building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Our closing words today are Sharing What We've Found by Reverend Scott Taylor. Having found stillness, may we share peace. Having received connection, may we reach out to others. Having heard the call of our deepest self, may we live in greater alignment. Having returned to our center, may we expand the circle of love.
Now please join me as we extinguish our sacred UU flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends, and blessed be.